what do people need to do? So the people, our listeners, predominantly quality stars leaders sitting in the chair at the health plan making these decisions. What do they need to do? Mick, do you want to start? What are your thoughts there?
Sure, I'll start one. Again, our focus is always on how do you optimize that star rating, and specifically the math path, as we've all talked about. Each math path is going to be unique, but the math path has fundamentally changed this year with a reward factor that so many of our high performing plans count on 30, 40 basis points every year. That going away, with potentially QI now becoming potentially harmful to virtually all plans. Biggest thing that we're talking about doing differently right now is putting a much bigger focus, although hopefully you've already had a good focus on QI, but doing things to where you can get ahead of QI on throughout the year, as opposed to waiting towards Q3, Q4 to start really looking how it's playing out. One way that we're working with plans to do this is creating this glide path. To understand, all right, if this is what we're projecting your QI significant improvement threshold to be, based on your historical trends, where do you need to be each month to be on track for that? And let's highlight things where you've got measures that are behind, because it's a good way to look at this, keeps tabs on performance throughout the year, highlights things early, where you still have a chance to actually do something about it. So I think just understanding how the QI math works and then applying it in different ways throughout the year to try to stay ahead of it. I think that would ultimately pay dividends for the vast majority of plans out there.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah. So one, I can't double exclamation point, Mick, that enough. I mean, there's no way to do this flying by the seat of your pants.
Right.
Gut ideas alone's not enough. Directional work's not enough. This is a math game.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll with that as the must-have foundation, I'll try to offer 3 other ideas. I would say get moving. It's hard. You guys are seeing me. I'm sitting in my home office, right? I've got my dogs at my feet. I've got a spouse working upstairs. It's hard to get momentum when you're sitting in your calm space, but we can't over-design. We can't overthink. We've got to give up the idea of perfection. We've got to get things moving with our members in the community. This means get out and see them, see your providers, get out of your home office, and really be intentional to know the problems that show up in math and make your math problem. Know the problems, know the words of the problems, know the names of the doctors and their problems, so you can then solve it intentionally, knowing that you're good enough for success, even if you're not going to be perfect. So that's my one, get moving. I would say I've got 2 other things that come to mind if our friends are feeling a little bit uncomfortable amidst the sea of discomfort. I have been shocked in the years of COVID how many of our OGs have left MA and left STARS. There's not a lot of folks that know how to do STARS work in the environment of uncertainty and unknowns. We don't have a lot of teaching going on. We don't have enough learning going on. We don't have enough STARS people out teaching their coworkers details and educating like we did when we were in offices. So really getting out there and helping each person know the new needs of STARS, know what 3 things that they need to be doing towards the STAR goal. So you've got every person supporting STARS, not just the STAR manager trying to do it alone on their own back. That's a really big deal. And last but not least, this is the hardest thing. If you run your math like Mick was describing and things don't look good, don't gloss over it. Be bold and tell the truth. Don't just hide your reality under the auspices of green lights or reports that show you're going to hit 4. Tell the truth. Be bold. John Willis was one of our other STARS OGs on our team, just wrote a big blog about finding your STARS community to build strength in numbers. Find somebody to help you put voice to the struggle and escalate the risk so that your leaders don't get surprised when plan preview hits, because there's nothing worse than a plan preview that's different than the reports you put out. So be bold, my friends. We've all been there. Yep, we've all been there. So what would you do?
Okay. All right. So one more thing. The other thing that I would just, especially right now this year, probably more than ever before, you got to communicate up because these changes, we went and did all the scenarios to say, all right, if this had happened in Stars 2023, what would it have done to you? For some contracts, it didn't crush them, right? They went down 10 basis points with everything applied. But others went from like a 4.95 to a 3.97. I mean, if you're getting hit multiple ways on this stuff, it leaves a mark, and that's with no performance change whatsoever. And so those are the kinds of things that if you are one of those plans getting really impacted, make sure that you're communicating that upward to help kind of cushion that blow, kind of prepare them for it, but also to help get access to resources that you might need to be able to start counterbalancing this.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Did you have more, Melissa?
I was going to ask you. So what would you do? What would you do, Rex?
I mean, ditto to everything you guys said, and just to not, duplicate those things necessarily, I would maybe add in. I mean, I think two or three things. One is, and you touched on this, but you need to understand the impact of your plan, right? So you need to really dig in and understand all of these changes, proposed and final for right now, because we're in that magic time right now, right? I mean, later this week we anticipate first plan preview and the Westat memos, which give us the final caps, stars, and rates. So, executive attention is higher in the next 60 days, definitely 75 days, right, between now and mid October when stars drop publicly, than they are all year. So capitalize on that. So I would say understand the impact to your plan, and I'm mainly speaking to stars and quality leaders, right? I would say block off some time for yourself to really think through this stuff. Like, our calendars are crazy. I mean, all of ours are, and usually people at the health plans are even more so than ours. And I know mine is nuts. So block off a few hours to really study this and think through it and develop a plan. And then, Melissa, you touched on this. Like, we're in our home offices, and I think that is so um, underappreciated, the impact people can have when they're in person, right? So, like, I know we have some clients that are getting, even if they're remote, they're getting together in person. Either they did in July for like a mid year kind of course correction meeting, or in August after preview comes out, and in a Q4 and a calendar year 2024 strategy meeting. So I think you need to spend some time alone first and then come together in person, ideally, because there's engagement is limited when we're on phones. I mean, when we're like this, I feel like we're all in the same room, but most Zoom calls or Teams calls with health plans are not like this. We're not all on video. People are on mute. You don't even know if they're listening. The engagement is not there. So get together in person if at all possible for a strategy session. And then, I can't overemphasize what Mick said as far as managing up, right? Like, I think, and Melissa, you touched on this as far as making sure people know, but I think the key words we use are shared understanding. So making sure that the key people around you, up, down, and around, the cross functional measure owners and partners, have a shared understanding of what they need to be doing, how we're going to mitigate the risk from these things that we're talking about that are coming full force at us and going to make it much harder to be, going to make it virtually impossible to be 5, and really hard to be 4.5, in the future. So, yeah, it's a lot.